The body is clean. 4 women are dead. The house looks like a slaughterhouse. Blood on the floors, blood on the walls, blood soaked into the curtains. But one of them has been wiped down, cleaned, disinfected, like someone took their time, and the investigators standing in that room can't figure out why. I'm Cole, and this is Midnight Files. If you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. It's a morning in Orlando, Florida, and the residents of one quiet neighborhood wake up to news that shakes the entire city. 4 women, dead, found inside a home. The community pours into the streets, demanding answers, demanding justice, demanding to know who did this. Investigators arrive at the scene, and they're not ready for what they walk into. The house is a massacre. Blood everywhere, on the floor, on the furniture, on the walls, on the curtains. Every surface tells the story of something savage. The kind of crime scene that takes your breath away the moment you step through the door. All 4 victims were stabbed, but one of them is different. 3 of the bodies are exactly what you'd expect to find in a house like this, covered in blood, left where they fell. But the 4th body? Someone cleaned her. Someone took the time to wipe the blood off her wounds, apply disinfectant to her injuries, and leave her looking almost peaceful, even though she'd been stabbed just like the rest. No blood on her skin, no mess around her, just cleaned up and then left at the scene. The moment the lead investigator saw her, one of the detectives on the team, a junior guy, 2nd tier, turned to his supervisor and said it flat out. "This case, I know who did this." Nobody believed him. "What's wrong with you?" they told him. "Are you crazy? Let us do our jobs." He said, "I'm sure." His supervisor told him to be quiet, told him to stop wasting everyone's time. They were at a crime scene. They had work to do. So they got to work. They pulled the bodies. They lifted fingerprints. And the whole time, investigators kept coming back to the same question. Why? Why did the killer clean that one body? What was the point? The 4 victims were identified. Mary, the mother, 40 years old. Susan, her daughter, 24. Mariette, Susan's adopted sister, 29. And Coriel, Susan's 5-year-old daughter. Susan was divorced, living at home with her mother and her adopted sister. And someone came into that house and killed all 4 of them, including the little girl. While investigators were still working the scene, a car pulled up. A man got out, his wife beside him, a friend with him. He looked destroyed, angry, grief-stricken, barely keeping it together. Security stopped him at the perimeter. He fought them. When they found out who he was, that the 5-year-old inside was his daughter. They walked him through. He stepped inside. He saw Coriel, and he couldn't speak. They calmed him down as best they could, told him to breathe, asked him what he knew. He told them his name was Corbell. He was Susan's ex-husband, Coriel's father. He said he and Susan had a civil relationship. They'd separated, he'd remarried, but they stayed on decent terms for the sake of their daughter. He visited, maybe once every 1 to 3 weeks. Nothing complicated. Just 2 people co-parenting and staying out of each other's way. Then his voice broke. "I don't care about Susan right now. I don't care about any of the others. Just tell me, who killed my daughter? She was 5 years old. What did she do? What was her crime?" And then his grief turned to something else. It had to be someone Susan was involved with. She had a lot of relationships. Someone she got involved with wanted revenge, and he killed my daughter because of it. I blame Susan for this. But right now I just need to know who did it. They took his statement, told him to come by the station later. He left. The investigation continued. Investigators kept circling back to the cleaned body, Susan's body. She'd been stabbed. But she'd also been wiped down, disinfected, laid out on the bed, and she was undressed. They found Mary, the grandmother, and little Coriel together in one room, Susan in another, Mariette, the adopted sister, in a third. It looked like the killer had moved through the house, room by room. They started building a theory. Who did this person know? Did they have a connection to Susan, to Mary? Both were possible. Susan was 24. Mary was in her 40s. They went outside and checked the vehicles. Susan's car was parked out front. Mary's car was locked right behind it. And then, while they were standing there, a man walked up. "I have information about what happened here." They looked at him. "I'm a friend of Mariette's, the oldest sister, the adopted one. I was at the house the night before the murders. I was in her room. We hung out, smoked, had something to eat. And then I left. I didn't notice anything unusual." They asked him why he was coming forward voluntarily if he didn't have useful information. He said, "Because you're going to pull prints, and you're going to find mine in her room. And I don't want you thinking I'm the one who did this. I was there, but I wasn't involved." They checked with forensics. His prints were there, exactly where he said they'd be. "All right," they told him. "You're good. Thank you for coming in." He left. Case still open. Pressure building. The neighborhood protests were getting louder. People gathering outside the police station. Signs in the air. The media was covering it. The captain was getting heat from every direction. He called in the junior detective, the one who'd spoken up at the scene, the one everybody had dismissed. "Get in here. You said you knew who did this the moment we walked in. Tell me what you saw." The detective sat down. "All right. But you didn't want to hear it. Before. Tell me now." The detective laid it out. He said, "When they entered Susan's room, the one with the clean body, the light switch wasn't where it should have been. In any normal room, the switch is right when you walk in, left side or right side. But this one was further inside the room, in an awkward corner, in an unusual position. Because at some point the room had been split in two. It used to be one large room, and the switch ended up in a weird spot as a result. There was a bloody print on that switch. Not a fingerprint, a gloved print. Whoever pressed it wore gloves, but they still pressed it. You know where that switch is. If you live there," the detective said. "Nobody walks into that room for the first time and goes straight to that light switch in the dark. You only know where it is if you've been in that room before. Many times." That was point one. Point two, the cleaned body. "She wasn't just wiped down," he said. "She was undressed. She was on the bed. The killer didn't clean her out of guilt or compassion. He cleaned her because he assaulted her, after she was already dead, and when he saw the blood on her, he cleaned it off so he could continue. This man was obsessed with Susan, completely fixated on her, and she had rejected him. She had cut him off. Whoever did this didn't just want her dead. He wanted her, even after she was gone." And then the detective said the name. Corbell, the ex-husband. The supervisor stared at him. "His daughter is one of the victims." "I know," the detective said. "He killed his own daughter to take suspicion off himself. Think about it. If your child is one of the victims, nobody's going to look at you. Why would a father kill his own 5-year-old daughter? Exactly. That's why he did it." A long silence in the room. "Let's bring him in." They called Corbell back to the station, sat him down, walked him through the evidence, piece by piece. And then they told him his fingerprints were found at the scene. He smiled. He turned and looked at the junior detective. And he smiled. The junior detective smiled back. The supervisor looked at both of them like he was losing his mind. Later, the junior detective explained what happened in that moment. He smiled because he thought he knew what I was doing. He thought I was bluffing, telling him we found his prints, when actually, we already knew he wore gloves and left no usable fingerprints. He smiled because he thought he was smarter than me. He thought he caught me lying. And I smiled because he just proved it to me. When I told him we found his prints, a guilty man wearing gloves would know that was impossible. He knew we were bluffing because he knew he'd worn gloves, and his smile told me everything. The supervisor looked at the detective, then at Corbell, then back at the detective. He turned to Corbell and pressed him, hard, calm, methodical, relentless, one question after another, chipping away, until Corbell stopped and confessed. Yes, it was me. I killed Susan because she refused me, because she left me and I couldn't accept it. I was obsessed with her, and I couldn't let go. He described what happened that night. He came to the house. He approached Susan. She rejected him again, physically pushed him away. He pulled out a knife he'd brought with him and stabbed her. Mariette, the adopted sister, saw it happen. She ran. He went after her, into her room, stabbed her, and left her there. By then, Mary, the grandmother, had woken up. She grabbed Coriel and pulled her into her room, trying to lock the door. Corbell pushed through before she could. He stabbed Mary. He stabbed Coriel, his own daughter, 5 years old. He killed her so the crime would look like something it wasn't, so that no one would ever think to look at a father who'd lost his child. Then he went back to Susan. He wiped the blood from her body. He laid her out, and he assaulted her. When he finished his confession, the room was dead silent. "God won't forgive you for this," one of the officers said. "You filthy animal." Corbell was taken into custody, charged, and prosecuted. The jury returned a verdict: death sentence, electric chair. Florida is one of the states that still uses capital punishment, and for a crime like this, there was no other outcome. Corbell is gone, and that is where this story ends.